folks, buckle up, because the economic roller coaster is back, and guess who's at the controls? That's right, our very own Tariff Titan, Donald J. Trump. Here at Boss Economics World, we don't just report the news, we rip the mask off the government's economic mismanagement and show you how their so-called genius plans are driving us straight into the recession ditch. So, grab your wallets, hide your savings, and let's dive into the latest economic dumpster fire. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2025, where the U.S. economy was supposed to be cruising on solid ground, low unemployment, steady growth, and consumer confidence that wasn't half bad. But hold the confetti, because here comes President Trump with his shiny new tariffs, ready to yeet the economy into chaos faster than you can say, trade war. Oh, and don't worry, it's not just a few economists muttering in the corner. Bloomberg's latest survey puts the odds of a U.S. recession in 2026 at a coin flip 50-50. That's right, folks, we're officially on recession watch, and the government's got its fingerprints all over this mess. Here at Boss Economics World, we're not just here to cry over spilled GDP. We're here to break down the economic carnage, point by point, surface to core, and show you how Trump's tariff tantrum is the economic equivalent of throwing a Molotov cocktail into a fireworks factory. And because we know our audience, sharp-eyed everyday folks worried about their financial future and finance pros trying to navigate this clown show, we're bringing the receipts. Fresh data, real-world examples, and a hefty dose of satire to expose the government's mismanagement for what it is, a masterclass in economic sabotage. Let's start with the obvious, tariffs are inflation's best friend. Trump's latest round of aggressive levies on imports, think everything from Chinese electronics to European cars, is essentially a tax on American consumers and businesses. Don't believe me? Let's look at the numbers. According to a 2024 report from the Tax Foundation, Trump's previous tariffs, 2018 to 2020, cost U.S. consumers and businesses an estimated $80 billion annually in higher prices and deadweight losses. Fast forward to 2025, and the Peterson Institute for International Economics estimates that the new tariffs could push U.S. inflation up by 1.5 percentage points over the next year. That's right, folks, your grocery bill, your car payments, your Netflix subscription, they're all getting a Trump-sized price hike. And here's the kicker, inflation was already a beast the government couldn't tame. The Federal Reserve's relentless rate hikes in 2023 and 2024 finally got inflation down to a manageable 2.5% by late 2024, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. But now, thanks to Trump's tariff tornado, economists at Goldman Sachs predict inflation could spike back to 4% by mid-2026. Higher prices, lower purchasing power, and a Fed that's probably sweating bullets trying to figure out whether to jack up interest rates again. Brilliant plan, Mr. President, really sticking it to the elites by making everyday Americans pay more for literally everything. Now, let's talk about economic growth, or, should I say, the lack thereof. Trump's tariffs are like a sledgehammer to GDP, and the cracks are already showing. The Congressional Budget Office, CBO, projected in early 2025 that U.S. GDP growth would clock in at a respectable 2.2% for the year, buoyed by strong consumer spending and business investment. But oh no, here come the tariffs, and suddenly economists are slashing their forecasts faster than a Black Friday sale. The National Association for Business Economics, NABE, now predicts GDP growth could slow to a measly 1.5% in 2026, with some even warning of a contraction if the trade war escalates. Why the slowdown? Simple. Tariffs disrupt supply chains, raise costs, and scare the daylights out of businesses. Take the manufacturing sector, for example. The Institute for Supply Management's manufacturing PMI, a key indicator of factory activity, dropped to 46.8 in December 2024, signaling contraction, and experts attribute much of that to tariff uncertainty. Companies like General Motors and Ford have already hinted at pausing investments in new plants, citing higher costs for imported steel and aluminum. And don't forget the small businesses, the so-called backbone of the economy Trump loves to champion. A 2025 survey by the National Federation of Independent Business, NFIB, found that 60% of small business owners are delaying expansion plans due to tariff-related cost increases. So much for America first, unless first means first in line for a recession. Now, let's zoom in on the labor market, because this is where the rubber meets the road for everyday Americans. The U.S. unemployment rate was a rosy 3.7% at the end of 2024, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but economists are sounding the alarm about a potential spike. Why? Because tariffs don't just hit businesses, they hit workers, too. Higher costs mean lower profits, and lower profits mean layoffs. It's Economics 101, folks, but apparently, the White House missed that class. One early warning sign is the average workweek, which economists are watching like hawks. A dip in hours worked is often a precursor to layoffs, and guess what? The latest BLS data shows the average workweek in manufacturing dropped from 40.2 hours in mid-2024 to 39.8 hours by December. That might not sound like much, but in economic terms, it's a flashing red light. And if businesses start cutting back on capital goods orders, think machinery, equipment, and tech, the ripple effects could be brutal. The Census Bureau's latest durable goods orders report showed a 2.3% decline in non-defense capital goods orders in November 2024, a clear sign that businesses are slamming on the brakes. Fewer orders, fewer jobs. It's not rocket science, but it is a recipe for recession. And let's not forget the consumer side of the equation. With inflation eating into wallets, consumer spending, the engine of the U.S. economy, is at risk of stalling. Retail sales growth slowed to just 1.8% year-over-year in the last quarter of 2024, according to the Commerce Department, and economists at Morgan Stanley warned that tariff-driven price hikes could push that number into negative territory by mid-2025. When consumers stop spending, businesses stop hiring, and the unemployment rate starts climbing. Congratulations, Mr. President, you've just turned full employment into full panic. Now, let's talk about the squishy stuff, sentiment. Sure, it's not as tangible as GDP or unemployment, but confidence, both consumer and business, is the glue that holds the economy together. And right now, that glue is melting faster than an ice cream cone in a microwave. The Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index plummeted from 108 in November 2024 to 95 in January 2025, the sharpest drop since the pandemic. Why? Because Americans are waking up to the reality that Trump's tariffs mean higher prices, slower growth, and maybe even pink slips. And businesses? The Business Roundtable's CEO Economic Outlook Index fell to its lowest level since 2020, with 70% of CEOs citing trade policy uncertainty as their top concern. Here's the thing, folks, sentiment isn't just a feel-good metric, it drives real economic outcomes. When consumers lose confidence, they stop spending. When businesses lose confidence, they stop investing. And when both happen at the same time, you've got yourself a recession, baby. But hey, at least Trump's got his America First soundbites, right? Too bad those soundbites don't pay the bills. Oh, and let's not forget the rest of the world, because Trump's tariffs aren't just a US problem, they're a global economic migraine. Take China, for example. The world's second-largest economy was already struggling with a property crisis and sluggish growth, with GDP growth slowing to 4.7% in 2024, according to the World Bank. Now, with Trump slapping new tariffs on Chinese goods, China's exports to the US, which account for 15% of its total exports, are taking a hit. The result? China's retaliatory tariffs on US goods, like soybeans and semiconductors, are hammering American farmers and tech companies. The U.S. Department of Agriculture estimates that U.S. agricultural exports to China could fall by 20% in 2025, costing farmers billions. And it's not just China. The European Union, Canada, and Mexico, our top trading partners, are all caught in the crossfire. The EU has already threatened counter-tariffs on U.S. exports like bourbon and Harley-Davidson motorcycles, which could cost American businesses $10 billion annually, per a 2024 estimate from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Meanwhile, global supply chains are in chaos, with shipping costs surging 30% in the past 6 months, according to the Drewry World Container Index. Higher costs, lower trade, slower global growth, it's a vicious cycle, and Trump's tariffs are the match that lit the fuse. So, there you have it, folks, Trump's tariff tantrum is the gift that keeps on giving: higher inflation, slower growth, rising unemployment, cratering confidence, and a global trade mess. And who's to blame? Look no further than the White House, where economic policy seems to be dictated by vibes, not data. Here at Boss Economics World, we're not just pointing fingers, we're shining a spotlight on the government's mismanagement and its reckless disregard for the economic well-being of everyday Americans and finance pros alike. But hey, maybe Trump's got a secret plan, right? Maybe this is all 4D chess to make America great again. Or maybe, just maybe, it's a masterclass in economic sabotage, courtesy of a government that cares more about political points than GDP points. Either way, one thing's for sure, the recession clock is ticking, and the odds are 50-50 that 2026 will be a year to forget. So, to our viewers, whether you're a worried worker, a stressed-out small business owner, or a finance pro trying to navigate this mess, stay sharp, stay informed, and stay tuned to Boss Economics World, where we'll keep calling out the economic clown show, one tariff at a time. That's all for today, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video, because if the economy's going down, at least we can go down laughing. See you next time on Boss Economics World.